and Finance meeting to order.
It's inside the Adobe app already.
Mr. Higgins can't be here tonight because I think he's having a baby.
Yay!
Well, not Chris, but his wife. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting? Second? Wait a second. Play. All in favor? Opposed? Carries. I'd like to take, since we have the sheriff here anxiously sitting down at the end of the table, we'll take the agenda out of order. I believe it's number 3. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Authorizing an agreement with the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services regarding the sheriff's heroin addiction recovery program.
Mr. Chairman, this is a very successful program we've been running now for close to 3 years. We put around 330, 340 people through, with only 19 returning to jail. We've got a very good success rate. With that said, we recently came to the legislature to receive a $25,000 grant from the New York Senate, which I believe was something left over from 2014 money. We got the $25,000, and with that, I'd like to create a new title, move the salary to $61,000 for Joan Wenstrom, who administers the program. With the remaining funds, we would hire a part-time KSAC. For the first time in my entire career, I've actually got inmates in the jail that are asking for more counseling. And I think we kind of owe it to them to clean them up and get them on the right track and hopefully make productive citizens out of them. So that's where the funds would go.
Do you have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I love the idea of practical outcomes. We know how many people we're working on and how many don't return, and I love you to keep an eye on that, Sheriff. I appreciate it.
We track it constantly. We have anywhere, and it could change every day up a little bit, but on the average, it's 12 to 15% recidivism rate, which is 30-some% lower than the rest of the jail.
In fact, you were featured on a national news story about the success of that program.
I look forward to working with you, Mr. Deputy Sheriff.
Same here.
Can you tell us who the sponsor in the Senate was of this item?
Senator George Amador.
Any other questions? Motion to approve? Motion to approve. Right. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Number 4, authorizing the acceptance of grant funding and an agreement with the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management Performance Grant.
Mr. Chairman, this is to receive $118,206. The grant runs from October of 16 to 9/30/18. They are now freeing up the money for us to draw down on. It's usually used for purchasing equipment and supplies. This is for the entire county, so if the city of Albany needs something for emergency management, we can help them. Hose, whichever the case may be, and of course the Sheriff's Agency, which is the primary emergency management officer for the county.
Questions from members? Motion?
Motion.
Willingham, Joyce, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Number 5, how many of these do we have for you, Sheriff?
This is it.
Okay, number 5, and the final one. Amending the 2018 Sheriff's Office Budget Emergency Medical Services.
Mr. Chairman, we're seeking permission to move $60,000 from our EMS Reserve Fund, which is actually the revenue recovery that I was speaking about in the Personnel Committee. When we transport patients, we bill, whether they're private insurance or Medicare, we get funds back. It goes into a separate account that we use to augment our supplies, equipment, could be a vehicle, whatever the case may be. We recently upgraded all our AEDs and defibrillators for the Sheriff's EMS program as well as our providers, and we need to move $60,000 over to pay for it.
Questions? Motion?
Motion.
Play? Second?
Second.
Joyce, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Okay, we'll return to our regular order business. Number 1, resolution number 77, requesting the Commissioner of the Department of Management and Budget to conduct a feasibility study regarding the cost of electronic devices for use by the Albany County Legislature. Wow, Commissioner.
How are you doing tonight? If I could, I'd like to give you a little brief update. I have Mr. McLaughlin here of what has transpired in
Hey, how are you?
what is pertaining to this resolution here. Approximately.
Did you bring Mike, because he's gonna be doing the work on this, or what?
It's gonna
Anything
be
not numbers related, maybe, but we leave everything else to him.
a few months back. Our current system that we submit our RLAs to you, Calm, is an in-house product that our IT maintains. We had shopped around for an agenda-making software program, which would handle the submission programs that we have and that we give to you. We had shopped
Is it
around.
something that's used up the hill?
I don't think in New York State, the product we ended up going with is used, but, Mr. Chairman, it is used in multiple state and federal level offices throughout the country and on county and local levels as well.
Thanks.
To kind of piggyback off what the Commissioner said, we've been doing electronic management of RLAs on the department and county executive level since August of 2013. The system has hit the end of its life. As the Commissioner said, we went out before some recent changes in the legislature and procured a system that we knew could, one, handle what our needs were, but also have the modules necessary to expand its capability to you folks should there be an interest at a certain point in the future. I realize the timing wasn't perfect given the eventualities that occurred, but that is kind of where we're at now.
Could you explain for the public what RLA is, please?
Yeah, sorry, RLA is a request for legislative action. It is the information that comes from all separately elected and their departments to the legislature. It's a packet of information that the legislature then uses to consider actions that need legislative authorization and create a resolution that authorizes that action.
So from that, we've invited Legislator Lakakis and Legislator Grimm to also have interviews with this company and to build the full needs assessment and what you envision to going forward on how we want to move or electronically in this instance.
Okay, so getting to the heart of the matter, maybe Mr. Signoracci has a question, but the cost of doing this, providing this estimate to us under resolution, do you have a number on that, since we don't have a legislative fiscal impact statement to accompany this legislation?
Well, this was actually, if I may, this was a feasibility study to find out what the cost was, so that a fiscal impact statement did not have to be drafted, to find out what the cost is to wind up moving forward, so that the legislature can wind up getting devices. However, last month, we had one part of our legislature that we approved a measure for that do have legislative devices, and another, which the majority does not wind up having it. So when this resolution went in, which that resolution did not wind up going through this committee and did not have a fiscal impact statement, Mr. Chairman, just so that you're well aware. So this is a fiscal impact statement to wind up having what the cost is, to see if it is something that's cost feasible for the county taxpayer, to wind up having the bean counter, Mr. Thalen, wind up saying, okay, what is the cost? This is the cost of paper, this is the cost of this is the cost of that, this is the cost of the tablets, this is the cost of, all of the internet that you will have. So this is pretty much the reason to find out what the feasibility and the cost is. To find out from them to wind up moving forward, to find out what I needed to do to move forward with the resolution. So this feasibility study was the beginning stage to find out the cost of all of those.
By the way, the minority's request was a budget neutral transfer within an existing budget, not a new item.
But
Mr. Grimm, you want to address this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as you know, the chairman of this legislature is appointed the co-chairs of a modernization task force, Ms. Lakakis and myself, and we're studying how can we make the legislature more modern. So we're going to be interviewing a lot of people, and we're soliciting input from everyone, including the legislature, and we're all hopefully going to formulate a plan that says this is our idea of how we can move us ahead in terms of modernization. This is how much it's going to cost. So I don't see how this is really possible to have a feasibility study when we are in the process of trying to determine what we want to do and how much that will cost. And once we make that determination, we'll bring it back to the memberships, so they can decide for themselves what they'd like to do.
Len, do you have anything you want to add to that? Before I turn to Mr. Joyce?
Well, I'm just not confused. I think, to me, a feasibility study is to see whether it can be done. I think that ship has sailed. We know it can be done, we want it to be done, most of us anyway. And so that is, I would agree 100% with what Mr. Grimm said about, like, that is what we're planning on doing, is presenting the cost, the upstart cost, presenting the annual cost. And we've begun collecting that information, and we have met with the
So you are doing that study? You are performing it free
We
to
took
the
our
tax-
charge to
free
be
the taxpayers
making that
that
happen.
you're-
Beyond that, Mr. Chairman, it's not just one single aspect, but the total
No, I-
picture of what that might cost.
I understand. So do you have a timetable that you could share with us?
We certainly want to get, we've been talking about it for a long time, and we want to get something done this year, but we ought to want to make sure that this system is really strong and ease of use, because we recognize that the members are going to have to be able to know how to do this.
So you're going to have a training budget.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, there's going to be, we'll have to bring people up to speed, but we can't continue to stay in the 20th century.
And we,
So when do you think you might have, Len, Mr. Caucus, when do you think you might have those estimates so that we
we were
can start?
hoping, I'd say
thinking?
between 6 and 8 months, try to get the numbers on the table. We had no idea that the executive's office was so far along with their decision-making and their
So are
choice.
you working with them now?
We had a
Yes.
meeting this week.
Just so everybody knows, one thing I want to say, we've been working very well with both members, been very easy, but a lot of the considerations that your task force is making are far outside what the software we're dealing with can do. It involves things that are wholly legislative considerations related to a voting system and things like that wouldn't be able to be handled by the software. So I do want to say that there are certain things that we appreciate you involving us in, and we want to make sure that whatever system we use is seamless with the system that you folks use, but we really were desperate for a legislative management system that just handled the responsibilities of the process that we deal in, so.
All right, so either one of you, if you can answer, and then Ray, I'll get to you in a second. So addressing this resolution of Mr. Signoracci's, what is it that your office and the IT folks can help us and help Mr. Signoracci in getting a number for it?
We can get, I mean, we looked into all the financial side of the different systems that we talk to.
So you've already done a lot of work on this?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not going to cost you anything to do this?
Not unless we expand I don't know in terms of what more cost it will be, because we have to determine what further modules are needed for the software that we're talking about. Does that make sense?
So this is something you're basically doing already? And this is the thing, Mr. Signoracci, are you trying to piggyback on this? Are you trying to buy into this system?
There's a
Trying to
little
help you
confusion. I got you, but my resolution that I put in at the beginning of, whenever it was, a year ago, beginning of the year, was to find out what the cost is for a tablet for the 39 members in the legislature.
Yeah, I didn't see tablet in here,
Well, that's the electronic.
devices.
Electronic
The 11
devices.
things,
Ralph,
such as tablet computers, okay.
So to find out what that cost was, as opposed to all of the paper that we use, and to wind up moving from instead of getting all of the papers, to find out what the cost is for everything. That was pretty much what I wanted to find out from management and budget, what it would wind up costing. And then to wind up going to the
But it would
legislature,
save us as well, is that what you're saying?
if there's a savings or if there's a cost. That's the reason why I was asking. We don't wind up buying the paper, it comes out of our budget, but what's the amount of money that we wind up spending in order to wind up getting tablets for everybody?
Mr. Joyce, you had a question?
I've got a few questions now. So what your committee, I guess, is doing, you're going to need to do anyways. What Ralph is asking for, they're already halfway through the answers, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, we're working in concert with the administration, because they have a system that they're happy with. And it's very likely that we're gonna apply that system to what we're doing. But that'll be a piece of what we do. Ultimately, we want to have a comprehensive plan for the legislature about how we can modernize it and how much will that cost us.
So getting the answers to Mr. Signoracci's resolution will aid your committee.
Well, I think this is a piece of what we're hoping to do.
Great,
More comprehensive study.
okay.
So if it's a piece, then why don't we move it out and
Well,
you'll have
why don't we
information.
amend, Mr. Bergdorf?
I was just going to say, I mean, and I know Mark has been involved with this. Tim DeRocher has been working both with the county exec's office and with IT, and I call it a quick gazinta. We got 10 of these for $317 a piece, okay? And the rest of what we have done, and it's only a beta system, is they've electronically loaded all the RLAs on, and you can go in and you can pull up every one of our calendars, and this was all done with our staff for about $3,000, $4,000 for 10 people. So you're not, for the tablet point of view, you know, I don't know what's being spec'd or whatever. We agreed that we wouldn't go any further. Obviously, these tablets will be compatible with whatever software system is developed, but it's not a real lot of money.
Okay, but that's one element of
That's right, but
modernization,
in terms,
development.
Ralph just said he was looking for the cost of the tablets. And I'm telling you, from a mini state contract, the answer is $317.
For 10.
We also
No,
need-
a piece.
Let me just speak to that if I might.
Yeah.
Our tablets might be more based on what we hope to do.
Yeah,
But
obviously.
what we're doing now, we want to expand that greatly, because there's a number of things we want to do.
But the one thing is that whether we're Democrats, Republican, majority, minority, everything's, the capability on either side has got to wind up being the same. We can't wind up saying that one side has more than the other side. So whatever that one side has, whether it was us, the majority, or you, the minority, would wind up having to have the same capability or be able to go in the same direction.
That's
So
what we
you
want to
haven't
do.
provided them specs for what you want them to do, a needs assessment.
These platform
So how do they, so
Yes.
it's a vacuum, so you're saying it could be a tablet like the minority has, or it could be a
It is an
tablet.
electronic device, whatever that, so if you're saying that it's confusing, I will go back and rework it, but I think that there's,
No, I'm just wondering if we can't do something that's a little
I'm open for
more
suggestions to
comprehensive.
wind up being able to
Yeah,
open things up.
Just real quick, we did make that consideration in our consideration of systems. The system that we chose works with any system, any phone, any tablet. That was a strict requirement that we had.
Lynn, you had another comment?
I was just gonna explain that if we end up piggybacking on what they already have invested in, they bought it already, it's theirs. You know, it'll take the RLA from the RLA all the way to the law. So, you know, they'll take it to, they'll get access to the information to the moment that they stop caring about it. And then when we start caring about it as a law, then we, you know, the program will take it for the rest of the way for us. And yes, we will look at it on, and it could be on a telephone, it could be on a laptop, it could be on a tablet. So at that point, you'll have a little more flexibility, Ralph, I think. If you want a small tablet, or, you know, we may well get the same exact thing. We're not really at that point yet, because we want to know what is going to be put on it, you know?
I mean, it sounds like we all want to get to the good place where we're doing our jobs better with technology more capably. At the same time, we're saving taxpayers money. And one way we're doing that is we're getting rid of all the paper and a lot of the inefficiencies, that way, the people that got to do the photocopying, et cetera. So I understand where you're coming from. You're trying to see both sides of the equation here.
And then
You can
to find
say-
out-
So as we go forward, we're saying, well, here's what we're saving on the way we've done it. Ray, you had another question?
I think Lynn just answered it for me. You guys have shopped the software itself for the vote recording, right?
Yes.
Thing, okay.
All right, well, who can, Bill?
Just a question. It seems like a year ago I heard that a cost for the paper was, did we do that or no? Do anybody know? Somebody did an estimate of the paper, the cost of the paper we used?
It's $5,000.
Oh,
5,000 a year. So we have that number. We have each machine, a rough estimate. Who can you work with
I can work with anybody.
All right, so
I'm
I'll
very
leave it
easy
to you
work
guys
with.
to work it out, and then I entertain a motion to table Mr. Signoracci's without prejudice, okay?
I'll table it. I have
All
no
right,
problem tabling it.
table it, request the sponsors, thank you. So you continue to work, I appreciate the collaboration from the county executive's office.
Most definitely.
Right. I think this is gonna be good for everybody. That's what we like, win-win, okay? Thanks, Mr. Rubin, too. All right, number 2 is tabled at,
Yes, it was tabled in law.
all right, you're a sponsor.
I am. Mr. Carnahan's not there as well as Mr. Miller. This was tabled in law. We're working through a couple of questions and suggestions from Mr. Perdorf. So we're going to wind up tabling at the request of the months.
Maybe you put that, we need to keep that or-
Absolutely, you would be more than happy to act, Mr. Joyce.
All right, we already did 3, 4, 5, so we need to go to 6, is it? Are we on 6 now? All right, number 6, authorizing, you ready? Authorizing the acceptance of additional grant funding from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services regarding the gun violence what else we have here? Elimination grant and amending the 2018 Department of Probation budget.
Good evening, Chairman and members. This is a supplemental grant to an existing grant we have where it would pay overtime of probation officers to visit probationers in the evening when they're home accompanied by police. This would be our high-risk offenders that may be involved with guns.
Questions from the members? No, there being no questions, motion to approve? Good. Second by Mr. Bergdorf. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Number 7, amending the 2018 Department of Probation budget, administrative adjustments.
Good evening. Our contracts were recently approved through legislation where a step scale was increased, and this is just to make adjustments within to adhere to that scale.
For how many people who?
For 3 staff.
3 staff, PEF,
Yes.
and they missed. Okay.
Well, one of them is part-timer moving into a full-time slot, and the other 2 were missed, yes.
All right, so this is from last year? It says 2018, but we,
Yeah, it's for,
but we didn't do that in the cleanup.
no,
Okay, all
I'm
right.
sorry, it was missed in the plan.
Okay, motion to approve. All in favor? Second. I'm sorry. All right, all those in favor now? Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Number 8, authorizing the acceptance of enhanced funding from the Office of Children and Family Services and amending the 2018 Department of Children, Youth, and Family budget.
Yes.
Good switch in the chairs there, that's a good time.
We coordinated.
Very smooth.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The department is requesting approval to move enhanced funding from our 2017 into the 2018 and amend our budget. In 2017, we received the legislative approval to accept the enhanced CPS funding from OCFS, the Office of Children and Family Services. And that enhanced funding allowed us to use it for overtime in order to address caseload sizes and overdue reports. And so in 2017, we expended $76,949. So we're requesting authorization to be able to move the remaining funds and to continue to use them in the 2018 budget to continue to address caseload sizes and overdue reports.
Got it. Okay, questions?
Mr. Chairman, so is overtime a problem then, that you're having managed, or what's the circumstance?
Well, actually, it allows us to be able to have expanded overtime, so there is overtime that we already have funding for, that we set aside funding, and so this is actually additional resources through the Office of Children and Family Services that we can use specifically for overtime that addresses overdue reports. So it's really
this
just
is
an
not
additional
county- This is not
resource.
county money?
No, not at all.
State.
Yes, correct.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Mr. Clay, second? Joyce, all those in favor? Opposed?
I would
Unanimous.
I would just
Yes.
ask, we actually have an additional item, number 11. I
Yes,
didn't know
okay.
if you,
I got it. Okay, I'll read it. Amending the 2018 Department of Children, Youth, and Family Services budget, suicide prevention services. Is that the one you're talking about?
correct.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so similar to the previous request, in 2017, we received funding in the amount of $4,500 for use with the Suicide Prevention Education Committee. We've expended some of the money, but we still have an additional $1,925 that we'd like to carry over in the 2018 budget to continue to bring awareness in regards to suicide prevention and working with the
Does
schools.
the members have any questions about this program or this item? Motion, do I have a motion? Third door, play, second. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 12. Oh, back to 9, I'm sorry. Authorizing as agreement with St. Peter's Health Department regarding the tobacco cessation system and amending the 2018 Department of Mental Health budget.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. We've never really been introduced. I'm Steve Giordano. I'm the
Yes,
director.
we met years ago, actually.
We did. I hope it was good.
That was a heck of a meeting.
Forgive me for not remembering. This is Kelly Roberts. She's our Chief Fiscal Officer. She's with me today to talk about our two proposals. The Department of Mental Health has been a leader in the state to deal with tobacco use amongst mentally ill. And we've worked very closely in recent years with St. Peter's Hospital and their tobacco cessation program. We are sending 6 people to a training, an intensive training in Glens Falls later this spring. And this stipend is actually going to help pay for the costs associated with that training. And
Questions? Mr. Chairman?
My clear practical outcome question
Yes.
that you've become probably used to.
yes,
Is there any way to, I know it's just $2,000, but any way to track how many people were smoking when you first touched them and how many people
Yeah.
stopped smoking?
well, yes, I am used to that. So we've been doing
Thank you for
this.
saying that nicely.
We've been, no, but it's a fair question because we have the same demands on ourselves.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for the better part of 4 years, and we can show how many people are smoking, who admit to smoking, and how many people have expressed the desire to get help to stop, because not everyone is interested in stopping. We can show you how many people are being treated for tobacco cessation. The trick about how successful you are is because, as Mark Twain said, stopping smoking is very easy. I've done it 100 times. People relapse and they start, they stop. So we know where people, our measure is, have you had an attempt to stop in the last 6 months? And if it's a yes, we try to help them make it through to the next 6 months. People start smoking again after 10 or 20 years of having stopped. So, but we believe that we're addressing the curve successfully. Most New Yorkers who have smoked over the last 20 years, the curve is going down in terms of current smoking. Mentally ill has been straight, and we're trying to address the fact that there's a disproportionate number of smokers amongst the mentally ill. So we would count any single person who stopped as a success, but I understand that the dollars have to be spent responsibly, and we do watch it. We do measure as best we can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Motion, third door, Royce, seconded. Next time. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, which one was you on? 10, okay, so we jumped out of it.
Yep.
Number time. Amending resolution number 417 for 2017 with Better Health of Northeastern New York and amending the 2018 Department of Mental Health budget.
Yes. So we were here in the late fall, and we sought and received permission to accept a grant from Albany Medical Center, their Better Health Northeastern New York program, which is part of the Medicaid redesign of the governor's plan to redesign Medicaid services around the state. When we came here in October, we were hoping for a November start. There have been a number of challenges in terms of getting the staffing model correct And we're here asking, and the contract was renegotiated a few times, we're here to ask to amend the start date to February 1st and change the end date to January 31st of next year.
Questions? Motion? Ms. Willingham? Second, Mr. Joyce? All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you, sir.
Are we done? Number 12. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Amending resolution number 433 of 2017 to accept additional funding for the New York State Department of Health and amending the 2018 Department of Crime Victims and Sexual Violence Center budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I appreciate your time. About 3 years ago, New York State passed the Enough is Enough legislation, in which addresses sexual violence on campus. And we were we were given a substantial award. So this past fall, when they awarded us a non-competitive 3-year grant, there was no indication that money would be different, so I had assumed a flat budget. When the award letters came out, there was an additional $40,000 in grant funding. So this is just to amend our budget and to accept that additional $40,000.
For the next 3 years?
Yes.
40,000, so that's...
For each year, yes.
That's good.
Yes.
Questions?
We've seen a lot, Mr. Chairman, we've seen a lot where the state is cutting things, including tuberculosis testing, but you're telling us they're giving you more money than you had?
Yes, knocking wood, I have my budgets for Office of Victim Services has significantly increased, as well as my Department of Health budget.
I'm not really sure this is wood, but...
Knocking whatever this may be.
Formica.
I wonder if help us recycle.
Motion?
Second.
Second by Ms. Willingham, thank you very much.
Thank you,
All in
Mayor.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you so much.
Number 13, amending resolution number 101 for 2017 with clinical staffing resources regarding certified nursing assistant services and amending the 2018 Department of Residential Healthcare Facilities budget.
Good evening. This contract with clinical staffing resources was a 3-year contract. We added some seed money to commence the contract. We were hoping to retain certified nursing assistants through the normal hiring practices, using our own advertising, internally, externally, BOCES and other avenues that we seek. CNAs, we've been unable to do that. We stopped using them for a couple months earlier this year. We found that we need some support because we cannot meet our minimum staffing levels. So we didn't cancel the contract. It's still a 3-year contract. We're giving up those budgeted CNA positions that remain vacant, some of them to support this contract for 1 more year, and that would be $361,096. And we believe that dollar amount will get us through the end of this year. We'll see where we're at that time. Hopefully, our recruitment efforts will continue and we'll be able to fill our own slotted positions.
This is not a new issue. When I was on this committee a decade ago, we were facing the same issue. So what's the problem with not being able to recruit CNAs?
Well, it's supply and demand.
Which is a position we helped to create to, all right.
I mean, the bottom line, I think, in speaking with my peers in the Albany region, I think it's just supply and demand. There's not enough certified nursing assistants to meet the open positions available.
Are you restricted by the county residency requirement?
No.
I think we lifted that for this.
We can hire all nursing staff outside of Albany County if we need to. Matter of fact, I'll be here next month for renewal of that agreement, with the legislature to give us an extension on that. There's just not enough people out there to work these positions. Right now, we're paying an average annually around $24,000 to our CNAs. The median in Albany, it just came out in the Times Union a couple of weeks ago, was over $27,000. We're not that competitive with hiring CNAs. We're working with BOCES. We're a training site. Last night, we received approval to use our training site, use our facility as a training site, the Schenectady County Community College. Maybe that will help us with recruitment. We're looking at other avenues like find a friend with bonuses. If they stay 6 months, you get X number of dollars. If some of those things work, we'll bring them to the legislature for approval. We're now discussing them internally to see if they're, programs that will work for us. But there's just not enough people out there to fill these positions.
Well, you're still working at it. I was persuaded by your argument a few years ago.
Yeah.
If we don't need to go to outside agencies and can fund, our own people can do this, we'll save further money for the taxpayers.
Oh, definitely.
So, Mr. Bergdorf and then Ms. Willingham.
Larry, what you're adding, $361,000, I got a couple of questions. What does that equate to in full-time equivalents? Are we buying people by the hour, by the shift, or do we basically get the same person for, the balance of the year?
We try to get the same individuals to work 5 days a week. We pay an hourly salary. This contract is based on a $20 an hour salary. So no matter when they work, holiday, evening, night, they get $20 an hour. In all honesty, that's less money than we pay per hour, even at $24,000 with our benefit structure. So our agency actually has a little trouble finding people to work for us. But I'm telling you, the bottom line is supply and demand.
Well, that's why I was curious. I thought they might be paying some sort of a premium to attract people for level staffing, but for whatever reason, people are going through them and working at a rate less than what they could be hired by Albany County?
Flexibility.
Okay.
They want to have control over their own time and life. And when they work for an agency, they can dictate what day I'm going to work, what shift I'm going to work. And with us, it's mandated when they're going to be there.
Okay, so it's the work condition, terms and conditions.
They want to work when they want to work.
Okay, that helps.
Yes. In another meeting, I heard you say we were down 22 people.
That's 100% correct.
Okay, so now can you tell me how that affects the different shifts and our clients, the residents?
Right now, we have 22 on all 3 shifts, full-time vacancies. Now, that's 22 vacancies is based on a 250 a day census. Right now, our census is averaging around 205, 206. So let's say you have 22 FTEs that are vacant, you probably need around 15 to 17 that are really truly vacant to handle our population, which is around 5 FTEs per shift, 7 days a week. That has an effect on care if we cannot get our staff to work overtime, our per diems to work the shifts we need them to work, and the agency to fill the slots that are vacant.
So our residents are not being affected by,
Well, you always want a staffing pattern to be where it's supposed to be as far as industry norms. We believe that our residents are receiving the care that they're supposed to receive every single day. But we want to go beyond what we're supposed to provide by the minimum standard to provide the standard of care that we believe our residents should be receiving.
so does this, the fact that we don't have the CNAs that we need, this in turn, does this have a domino effect as far as the nursing, the LPNs and the RNs are concerned? Because who has to take everybody's place?
Well, I think we're doing okay since we adjusted the salaries of RNs, and we hold our own with LPNs. Clearly, when staff members are working 3 or 4 overtime shifts a week in addition to their 35-hour normal work week, it's strenuous. And sometimes we ask our staff to work 3 shifts extra if they're willing to volunteer and do that. We don't have any mandation. So we don't want our staff working 3 extra shifts or 2 extra shifts or even 1 extra shift. We want you to work your 40-hour normal work week with 35 hours of direct care work. and have enough staff to care for our resident population. So the goal is to have a staffing pattern where overtime is minimal.
So for, how many patients does each, are taking, how many patients does a particular, I'm trying to figure it out, you know, I know that.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It depends on the shift. On day shift, we would like our CNAs never to have more than 8 residents to care for. On evenings, it's usually approximately double that. And on nights, it's usually around 20 on the night shift. So it goes usually from around 7 to 8, then you want to go to around 12, 13, and then on the night shift, usually it's 2 CNAs, that's a standard practice for 40-bed units, so it would be 20 and 20.
All right, I'm going to draw this discussion to a close. I have a question for you after we take the vote.
Okay.
Motion to approve. Mr. Grimm, going in second. All those in favor? Okay, that passed. Now, why is the census down to 205? I mean, we were concerned with 220.
Yeah, we had, our budget is 220.
Yeah.
We are having difficulty, filling all of the beds that are available. Nursing homes go through highs and lows. As everyone's aware, we're commencing finally our renovation project. Our building is still the same building that it was 4 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We haven't renovated since 1971. The building, when people come to visit, even though I think the new structure is going to be phenomenal, no one's going to believe it when they see it, when it's completed, and I can't wait. We're still an old building, and when people come to see it, and they could go to other places, whether it be to Regent House or Kingsway Community or Daughters of Sarah, and they look at not the care that we're providing, because I believe our care is just as good as theirs, if not equal to or better. They look at environment, people look at environment. And when you look at our environment, even though we painted our building, we put in $800,000 worth of new furnishings, we have 2 brand new elevators, it's still a building, for the most part, that was built in 1971. And the nurses' stations and the common areas are not what they should be for today's type of quality of care. They're okay, and they meet minimum standards. But when people come to our nursing home and they go, do I want to work here? That becomes an issue.
Except for CNAs, because there's supply problems, it doesn't matter anyway.
Well, it doesn't matter there. I think, listen.
But you said before that we get that census up to 220, and that's starting to cost the taxpayers money when you're below that census.
Well, I would say, I always say this, yes and no.
Yes.
And the reason
Labor
being,
costs.
not that I do what you do for a living, but the fact of the matter is that we're able to adjust our staffing patterns to
So
census.
the labor does.
So the fact of the matter is that I can't fill positions is not a good thing or a great thing, but it assists in meeting my budget, because we know at 205, I don't need the staffing that I need for 220, and I adjust the staffing every week to the census.
All right, move on to the next report. Thank you, Larry.
Okay.
Authorizing an agreement with Comprehensive Healthcare Solutions regarding billing and debt services.
Yeah, we had a short-term approval, and we brought in Comprehensive Healthcare Solutions. I just want to point out there's a little typo here, it's comprehensive.
Number of typos in here, but
Yeah, no, I didn't type it.
challenging to read it.
What?
It's challenging for me to read it.
Oh, okay. And we did an RFP, knowing that we were only asked for 6-month approval. As it turns out, the RFP is being awarded to, or we're recommending the award to, Comprehensive Healthcare Solutions. They've now been there for a little over 60 days. They've been doing a phenomenal job in our receivables. It's the best company that I've ever worked with in my entire career. Their price is $198,000 a year. It's a 3-year agreement for $594,000. They will also be responsible for bad debt collection for an additional 15% of money they collect that we authorize, which is beyond 198. I didn't put it in the RFPs. I don't know what it's going to be. At some point in time, when we have some experience in them collecting our bad debt, then I'll come back to the legislature, and it would be money already in the bank. Let's say they collected 100,000, we now have to give them 15,000.
So it's not an issue where they're cherry picking right now and then it's gonna get harder the longer they're with us?
No, we have an agreement that anything from the time they entered into this contract going forward, they can't get 15% on. It's some old bad debt that we had problems with. And most people who've been here for a while know that our nursing home has always struggled and found extremely challenging our receivable system and getting it where it needed to be. I've dealt with it now for 4 years. Doesn't seem to be a solution internally that we could find those people knowledgeable enough in Medicare, Medicaid. You know, there's literally 15 different HMOs out there today that you have to bill. Medicare, managed care, you need experts doing this. We found just in literally less than 60 days. Then they did our January billing. I went over it today with the commissioner. We're bringing in $1.3 million in January, and we never saw that in any previous month, because they did all of our billing the way it was supposed to be done.
So is any of this then gonna be unanticipated revenue?
Say that again?
Is any of these collections gonna be, you haven't budgeted for this revenue because you're basing it off of historical?
There's a
experience?
possibility of that, but we've run, as Larry
I'm sure you have
said,
plenty of ways to spend it if you find it.
not so much that, but I mean, and Larry said the census has been 205
Right.
for at least the 2 months here. So if we book revenue at the 220 basis, making that difference up is,
Gotcha.
like, cash-wise, yes, if you don't have filled positions, but your revenue line would not be, let's say, above that. Highly unlikely, possible, but highly unlikely.
And I want to point out that we're going to be giving up positions to pay for this. The person who quit without notice, who actually did this job, that put us in this situation, a part of the situation. You know, we're not replacing that person, and we're using other positions to fund not all of this, but a portion of this. So over the entire year, it will be supported by our existing budget.
Okay, Mr. Bergdorf?
Just curious, how do they work? Are they on-site, off-site, combination of both?
Off-site, but they do visit, they've already been there twice. And I know that they're doing a very good job, because our DSS called me and told me to have them stop calling them.
Okay, that's good.
So, they're
So they
all-
have a constant electronic linkage to your,
to everything that
to your
we do.
financial
We've
system.
through our legal department,
Yeah.
we've given them authority, and they had to sign away, you know, a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, and a lot of stuff to, you know, protect our.
Just to give us a sense of scale, what are your total billables for a year? You talk about $1.3 million in revenue for the month of
Our
January.
annual billable that's budgeted at 220 is around 19 million a year, without IGT,
Intergovernmental transfer.
Correct.
IGT.
intergovernmental transfer, yes.
Any other questions from the members? Motion? Bergdorf, Grimm, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, now we're on to 15, amending Resolution 499 for 2016 with Thomas Rafferty Incorporated regarding solar shades at the Albany County Nursing Home, and amending the 2018 Department of Residential Healthcare Facilities budget.
When we installed these type of drapes in the resident rooms, there were hallway windows, like by the elevators, that were left out. We asked for and received a resolution to install them. The owner of this company got ill and couldn't couldn't install the drapes as ordered. After he recovered, he installed the drapes, but then we passed the contract expired, so it's only a date change, so we could pay him.
There you go. Questions?
Did I say that right?
Motion?
Sounds good.
Bergdorf, Bellingham. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Those things really work, huh?
They work.
Number 16, amending the 2018 Department of Residential Healthcare Facilities Budget Administrative Adjustments.
Yep. Approximately a year and a half ago, maybe a little longer, we gave up 2 full-time cook positions to try to streamline our operation, become more efficient. And we created 2 part-time positions with the hope that giving up 2 FTEs and their benefit structure, hiring 2 part-timers for weekends would allow the full-time people to have every other weekend off. We would save the benefits, save on 1 FTE at least, and it would be a workable situation and everyone was good with it. For over a year, or probably maybe a little drop less, we have been unable to find any cooks to fill those part-time positions. They don't want to work weekends only and they don't receive benefits. So we're reversing half of what we asked for. We want to put back in place, want to do away with the 2 part-time positions, hire 1 full-timer that will receive benefits. It's being funded through vacant positions that we have in our budget, so it will be budget neutral. And we hope with a full-time position, we'll find a cook.
Questions, motion? Burglar, Joyce, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Number 17, authorizing corrections.
Thank you.
That's you, you're done. Thank you.
Yeah,
Don't even know, right?
Authorizing corrections to the tax roll for the town of New Scotland, Colony, Bethlehem. Okay, fire away.
Okay, the first correction is for the town of New Scotland. There was a parcel that was, there was some confusion when mapping the subdivision. The parcel in question was mapped separately. It contains a water tower on it, and it was actually included with another parcel. So it's actually a duplicate assessment.
Motion? Motion moved, Joyce. Burglar. Favor?
Favor.
Opposed? Unanimous. 18, this one is for Colony.
Town of Colony, the parcel was charged the incorrect units for water charges, and the assessor notified me of that and corrected the water units, and that would
We're
change.
good on that. All those in favor? Motion to move. Mr. Joyce, Mr. Clay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, next one is correcting town of Bethlehem tax rolls.
Town of Bethlehem parcel, there was a pilot, there is a pilot on this particular parcel. The assessor was...
Payment in lieu of taxes?
Yes. The assessor was correcting some of her, cleaning up her records with exemption codes. When she changed the exemption code on this parcel, it wound up charging a ambulance and EMS tax, which is included with the pilot payment. So that needs to be corrected.
Have a motion?
Motion.
Grimm, Joyce. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Number 20, authorizing the refund of real property taxes in the city of Albany. We're getting to you, Mr. County Attorney, be shortly.
Thank you, Chairman.
With City of Albany, the property owner was granted a 40% veterans disability when in fact they should have received 45% exemption.
Joyce?
Motion moved.
Second.
Second, Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. We have one more. 21, amending resolution number 71 for 2018 regarding the cancellation and chargeback of an unenforceable delinquent real property tax lien for 21, also known as 19 Clinton Avenue in the city of Albany.
That's ours.
That's yours.
What?
That one wasn't mine that I put in.
Wow, it's ours. So you can go. You're done. Thank you.
Well, I have
Do you
one
have a
more.
comment on it?
The 230 Whitehall?
No.
Nope, cancel that.
Okay.
I'm done.
All right, we don't
Next
have- I don't have anything
month.
more to-
I'll be back. Thank
We
you.
have a motion on 21.
Motion moved.
Joyce, Mr. Grimm, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, now we gotta have an executive session here. I have a motion to go into executive session from Mr. Joyce, seconded by Mr. Bergdorf. Call the meeting of the Audit and Finance Committee back in session. We have just been in executive session, and now we're going to vote on the item that we discussed in executive session, which is item number 22 on our agenda, authorizing the approval of the settlement of the lawsuit. May I have a motion? Motion with Mr. Joyce. Willingham, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Willingham.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone, tonight. It was a good meeting.
Oh, Lord.